second. Okay. So before we kind of get started on the communication tools side of this, I do want to point out that we do have on our website an Ultra page that is really dedicated to everything Ultra. If you go to our web page, you'll see an Ultra tab there. And if you click that tab, you have several different options. But the ones you're probably going to pay most attention to are the feature guide and the what's new in Ultra. The what's new especially because since probably the last 6 months or so, maybe even a little longer, Blackboard has really picked up the pace in terms of their development of Ultra. So changes are coming fast and furious. We get new updates and changes every month. Before, where we would get maybe 1 or 2 changes each month, now with the weekly or with the monthly releases, we're getting it usually half a dozen changes. Sometimes they're big changes, sometimes they're a little smaller. But if you go to the What's New in Ultra, that page is dedicated to the latest things, latest features that have been added, and we'll also give you a little preview of some of the stuff that is coming up. The feature guide is also nice because what that does is especially if you're transitioning from the original view to the Ultra course view, the feature guide is a side-by-side comparison of the two. So you can see which features in original are available in Ultra. If those features are not available in Ultra, you will be able to see if they are currently being developed or researched for inclusion. And sometimes they will give you a general timeline, but generally they don't. But those are two probably of the most useful features I see, but you can always contact us at CITL. We're happy to help you with the transition. Remember, Ultra is coming. We are encouraging everyone to teach in it starting next fall, but we're not going to require that, right? The hard deadline is the spring. So by spring of 24, all courses will be in Ultra. So you have a little less than a year. So I would encourage you, if you haven't started planning your transition to the Ultra course view, that you do that sooner rather than later. We will be offering our Ultra Transition Academy again this summer, which is a good way to get started. And again, I'm going to plug us again. Contact CITL. That's what we're here for. We will help you get started. All right, but today we are going to be talking about the communication tools that are available in Ultra. And Ultra really does have a wide variety of tools. And I've kind of just sort of divided these into what I consider sort of passive communication tools and more active communication tools. What do I mean by that? Well, great question, right? For me, a passive communication tool is something where the user, the end user, the person you're trying to communicate with is going to engage with that tool on their own. You really don't have any control over that. So a good example of that would be the institution page, right? When you first land on Blackboard, you hit the institution page, which has those general university-wide, university-level announcements, and we'll get more into that later. But we also have more active tools like actual email messaging, announcements, and things like that. And there's also in here, you may have noticed that I've included rubrics. That is kind of straddles the line, I think, between passive and active because, as we'll talk about in a moment, the rubrics in Ultra can be, you use the rubric, right, to communicate your assignment parameters, but when you grade with a rubric in Blackboard, it actually allows you to give feedback for each of your rubric criteria as opposed to just in general. So you can actually, like, say, if you have a say support criteria in your rubric, you can actually address which issues a student maybe needs to spend more time on when they're supporting their viewpoint in a paper, things like that. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, I'm going to start on the institution page. Now, the institution page, as I mentioned, is where you will go to find your university level announcements, right? This is where you'll see, like here it says, this is a pretty old screenshot, but you can see this is from when we were first moving to Ultra. But on your institution page, that's where you will see these things, and each and the nice thing about the institution page is that it's customized depending on your role at the university. So a student will have a different institution page than an instructor will, right? You'll have links to things that can help you with teaching, like you'll have links to help on Blackboard, stuff like that, whereas students, they will have different links, things to get to, say, tutoring help or stuff like that. So each of the blocks, which you can't really see here, will have different options based on your role. Yeah, as you can see, as I'm scrolling down, you see these blocks. This one is from me or from my page, so it's got some stuff about teaching with Blackboard and upcoming workshops, etc. The next down here is the profile page. This again is more of a passive tool, right? And when you go to the profile page, and you do that by clicking your name, and you can see I've put an Ultra guy here. For those of you who are Japanese sci-fi fans, you'll recognize Ultraman. But right here, this is where you can go to view all the data or all the information in your profile. Anything that is anything with a clickable link, you can adjust, but most of this stuff is filled in based on information that is at the university, right? So your name, your email address, and things like that. You can, right? This pronunciation thing is a fairly new tool, but what's really nice about that is that you can actually add your name pronunciation, right? So you can click on this and record your name pronunciation. Anybody can do this, and once you've done that, then in all of any place that you show up, like in a class or whether you're an instructor or a student, if you've done that, then there will be a little icon next to your name, and that allows you to click that icon and hear that person pronouncing their name, right? That's kind of nice, especially if you've got a class with students who maybe have some names that you're not familiar with or are not sure how to pronounce, because it's always nice, right, to get somebody's name right. But that will follow you around everywhere. So once you've added it to your profile page, then anytime if you're on a course roster, your name pronunciation will be there for whoever needs it. I also want to point out on this page, you can adjust your notification settings on the profile page. You can adjust your stream, email, and notifications that get pushed out to you. And we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. First, we're going to start with the activity stream. The activity stream is, again, I call this a passive tool because this is something that a person would actually have to seek out in order to see what's on it. The other thing about the activity stream is that the end user can turn the notifications on and off, right? So just because in your course you are posting announcements and stuff, if a student has turned off the activity stream from your course, stuff will not show up on their activity stream, right? As I'm sure you can imagine, if you have several courses and a lot of things are happening, this activity stream can fill up in a hurry. So, I mean, that's a reason that people will turn it off, just because it keeps adding stuff to your, it can almost be overwhelming. But what you can do is, you'll see that it's basically broken into upcoming events that are happening today. And then if you scroll down, you can basically get a stream of events. You can adjust the settings by clicking the gear icon up in the corner that I've got highlighted, or back on that profile page by clicking that stream notifications setting. That'll take you to the where you can adjust your activity stream. We also have the calendar, and this is similar to the activity stream in that it compiles stuff from all of your courses, but the end user decides which information this calendar compiles, so they can turn on and off the various courses and things like that. So just because you are scheduling things and putting them in the calendar doesn't necessarily mean that the students are receiving them. But just be aware of that. Students are aware of this too, but you may want to point that out, that hey, make sure that you have enabled the calendar from my course, if you want to receive those notifications to your calendar. And what they'll do is it'll show the schedule, it'll show class times, office hours. You can toggle to due dates, so you can get due dates for your assignments. And you can also toggle from a day view or a month view, which is nice. But again, like the activity stream, if you click the gear icon, you can actually, well, this next page, if you click the gear icon, you can add items, or excuse me, the gear icon to determine which of the courses are being sent to your calendar, and the plus icon allows you, if you click that, you can just add stuff to your own calendar. So, for a student, that's nice. You may have an appointment at a time or whatever. You can just add that by clicking the plus. But you can also, from the gear icon, you can also share your calendar. So if you want to share this Blackboard calendar with Outlook, that is also possible. Oh, I guess I just talked about that. As I said, you can add events and items with the plus, and the gear icon allows you to adjust the calendar settings. You can see here, this is me. I'm in a bunch of different classes because I'm an administrator, and I'm always helping people. But you can see where you just check which calendars you want sent to your main calendar on the institution page. All right, now we're going to get into some of the more active tools. But before I do, I would like to stop for a moment to ask if there are any questions. All right, hearing none, I am going to move on. Okay, let's start off with messages, okay? There are a couple of different ways to get to your messages in Blackboard, okay? When you hit the institution page, right, that landing page that you hit when you first log into Blackboard, there is a messages tab on the left-hand navigation menu. There will be a small bubble, and if you see a number in that, if you see that bubble and a number in it, it will tell you how many messages are unread in all of your courses, basically. If you click the messages tab, it brings you to this listing of all of your current courses and organizations, and you can see then by looking at the course tile which has unread messages and which does not. Okay, you can also, I want to make sure I'm here. Yes. You can, if you'll notice, there's this plus icon here, and this is an icon you see a lot in Ultra. Generally, when you see that icon, it means you're going to add something. Okay, in this case, you want to create a message. So you can create messages and get to the messaging for any of your courses, read the messages from this base navigation page, right? This allows you to click in to the messaging from any one of your courses with just a click. All right. And from there, you can um, read your messages. You can click the plus icon to send a message to that particular course if you want, all from the base navigation page. And we'll talk a little more about message creation in a minute. But I just wanted to point out that you do have that um, messages tab on the base navigation, and that allows you to look quickly and see if you've got any messages in any of your courses. You don't, like in original, you would have to go into each um, course to check to make sure there were no messages. Now you can just do it from the base navigation page, which is very nice. Okay. As I mentioned, there's also the messages area inside the course. If you are in an Ultra course, along the top navigation bar, one of the tabs is the messages tab. If you click that, that will open the messages in the messaging window in the course, which will allow you to, um, excuse me, which will allow you create and read messages for your students. It's similar, right? Notice that we've got this plus icon here. That's again how you're gonna add um, a message to a course, right? So if you click that plus icon, and as I said, you can click it out here too. When you click the plus icon, right, it opens the messaging window. Now they keep improving this. It's gotten a lot easier. Now you can, but excuse me, let me start over. They've made the window a lot bigger, so it's a little easier to message students and things like that. You do need to check there's a checkbox to send an email copy. Email copies are not sent by default, so you do need to check that box if you want to. And there's also a little checkbox you can uncheck if you don't want students to actually be able to respond to your message, although I'm not sure why you would want to do that. But what you can do to send a message out, right, is you can click in the recipient's box here and start to type a name. You can send messages to the entire course, to individual people, or to your groups. And this text editor here allows you to send more than just a simple text message. You can attach files, links, and also various types of media. So these messages can be more than just simple text, right? They can be very dynamic. All this messaging is contained in Blackboard. So remember, if you want to send an email copy of these messages, you do need to check that box. And the student will have to have an email address on file, which they should. It would go to their student email. All right, this is one of my favorite features in Ultra, and it's the announcement pop-up. Unlike original, where the announcements I think could be sent via email, this new announcement pop-up means that when you create a new announcement in your course, the first time a student enters that course, let me say this again. If you create an announcement in your course and a student has not entered your course since the time you have created that announcement, then the next time that student goes into that course, that announcement pops up before they can actually access the course. You can see how it pops up in front of you like this. Now you'll see there's this dismiss button. You can dismiss this and get through it without reading it, right? I can easily envision a scenario where a student is attempting to or needs to turn in an assignment right before the due date, and so they might click through this, but once they've seen it, it's been put in front of them, and they can always go back to their announcement archive to read any announcements they may have had to click through. But I really do like that this thing, it pops up right in front of you. So, like I said, there's no guarantee that they are going to read the announcement, but you do know that they have at least had a chance to. And, they're adults, they're responsible for um, finding out this information, right? You're, by using an announcement, you're really doing your best to make sure that they see it. But you create an announcement similar to the way you create a message when you click on the announcement. So you've got your announcement link on the left hand under details and actions. When you click that, that will take you to the announcement screen, which is similar to the messaging screen. Again, you'll click the plus icon, and when you click the plus icon, you'll be taken to the announcement creation panel. Now, announcements go to everyone. I think you can, I don't believe you can send them to particular groups at this time. But again, if you want to send an email copy, you need to check the box, right? Once you've typed out your announcement, if you want to post it right away, you'll just click save. But if you want to schedule it to go out at a later time, like say you schedule announcements to remind students that you have office hours on Tuesdays, say, so the announcement goes out on Monday. So you can schedule those ahead of time if you click that box. But once you've saved your announcement, it won't do anything until you actually post. So you have a chance, right? So you can actually create your announcements ahead of time. You can schedule them to go off, or you can just have them sitting there and you can click to post them when you're ready. And you can see where if you click the schedule announcement box, all you have to do then is fill in the date and time. You can also have those announcements hide again, but again, I don't know why you'd really need to. Now, my next active communication tool is going to be Class Collaborate. Actually, this is an old sign. They have or an old slide. They have changed this now. It's no longer Blackboard Collaborate. It's called Class Collaborate, but it's still the same. It works the same as it did in original. So there's no difference there. And you can use Collaborate. You can use the course room, or you can set up sessions. It works the same in original and ultra. This is actually a tool that is separate from Blackboard, but highly integrated with it. But you can use Collaborate, right, to hold classes online. You can hold office hours via Collaborate. You could say do test reviews. And also you can if you say create group assignments and you enable class collaboration, that will allow students then in groups to come together and use Collaborate in their groups so they can collaborate on assignments online as opposed to having to get together in person, which is great, right? Because a lot of our students are from all over. So, not everybody's here in DeKalb. But you create sessions, right, by clicking the three dots on the Blackboard Collaborate line, and you'll get this pop-up menu, which will allow you to get a guest link, which you can then mail to people. You can schedule new sessions, right? So like if you click Manage All Sessions, that allows you to set up, say, class times and office hours. But students and you will all enter it by clicking that Collaborate link on the left side. All right, next we're going to talk about rubrics. And I feel like I'm going kind of fast, so I'm going to stop for a second just to make sure that everybody or that nobody has a question.
Where
All
are
right.
you again? Can you just go back to where you're at in the main Blackboard screen?
Oh, yeah, here I'm actually, I'll tell you what. Let me just so, okay, so can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So here's the institution page, right?
Hmm.
Um, I go to courses, and I'm going to just enter. This is just a shell course I've got, and we're talking about rubrics now. So there are actually a couple of ways um, to get to the rubrics. So first way is to here. I'm just gonna plus sign. I'm gonna create an assignment, right? So as I create my assignment, um, and you'll see here if I click open the assignment settings, scroll down, and it's the same in the test, by the way. The test and the assignment are pretty much set up the same way. There's very little different. But you can add a grading rubric if you come down to additional tools, and you're going to click add a grading rubric.
Okay.
Okay. Now, once you have a rubric, you can use it over and over again. You'll see I've got a couple of rubrics already in here, or you can create a new one by clicking create new rubric. I believe 15 by 15 is as large as the grid gets, but that's plenty. And as I said, you can create, up to 15 different criteria to assess and have 15 different levels of assessment. I don't know if you would need that many. I generally try to keep my rubrics fairly small and focus on just a few things, but how you do it is up to you. But anyway, I said, but just going back a little bit, there are two ways to set up a rubric. One is actually while you're setting up the assignment in the assignment settings, like I've done now. But another way to do that is to, you can actually create rubrics in the gradebook. So if you want to create your rubrics ahead of time, you can do that by going to the gradebook. So you'll click the gradebook tab. And again, and if I click the gear icon to open my gradebook settings, and if I scroll down, you'll see where I can create course rubrics here. And you'll see that I've got the ones I had in the assignment are there. And if I want to create a new rubric again, all I got to do is click this button here, and this will take me to the rubric creation page. Um, to, and just as a quick way to go through it here, to edit these criteria, right? You just scroll up in the top. If you want to edit, you'll click the pencil. If you want to get rid of something, all you have to do is click the trash icon, the trash can, right? That'll take something away. If you need to add something back, you're going to scroll in between these lines. And when you see this plus icon come up, you click that, and that adds another level. Okay? And you can see how these things get sort of automatically distributed, but you can adjust them to however you want. You can also adjust your rubrics to be percentage range, points, or a point range. So you've got some flexibility there as well. Cancel out of that. So I don't need it. But as I mentioned, I don't know if this is going to show. I'll just show you my course rubric. Yeah, you can see you can keep your rubrics very simple. All right, but once you've got your rubric created and assigned, I mean, I'm personally a big fan of the rubric because I think it's a great way to communicate your expectations to students. It's very clear in terms of what they need to they know clearly what they need to focus on during the assignment, and I think it's also um, a good thing to have because you grade how many assignments do you grade in this semester, right? You can't remember every single one of them. So if there's ever a grade challenge or anything like that, a rubric is a good reference tool for you to have to say, no, this is why I gave this person this grade on this particular assessment. So it's just good as to have as record keeping. And it's a good way too to start a dialogue with your students, right? You can say, hey, you need to, I'm noticing that maybe you need some improvement in this area, let's talk about that or whatever. So it's, again, just a good way to get started. And as I said, so there are types of the rubric, or there are parts of the rubric that are kind of passive, but there are also parts that are a little more active because you can add um, criteria and feedback when you're grading. I don't know. Shoot, I don't think I have one set up to use right away, or I'd show you. Um, Let me see if I can find one real quick. Give me just a second. I'll see if I got something. No, shoot. No, I don't. All right, well, I'll show you that a little later. All right, let me get back to oops. Sorry. Taking me just a second here. Back to my PowerPoint. Trying to find the right slide. Sorry for the delay. All right, here we go. Okay, next on our list are discussion boards. Now, again, in similar to the rubrics, there are a couple of different ways to create your discussions. Now, I recommend that you create them from the content page. Okay, the reason I recommend that is because you can, and if you see on this screenshot here, you'll notice one of the navigation tabs is discussions. So when you click on that tab, you will be taken to the discussion page in your course. And you can create discussions on the discussion page. But if you create them on the discussion page, then students will have to go to the discussion page to access that discussion. If you create your discussion on the content page, and you do that by clicking the plus icon, and when the Create Item panel pops out, you'll scroll down to discussion and click discussion, and it will automatically create a discussion forum for you. And when you create them on the content page, they are simultaneously created on the discussion page as well. If you create them on the discussion page, they will only be available there. So I recommend creating them on the content page because it's easier for students to access them. But and here, let me show you. This is what the discussion page looks like. And you can see, you've clicked this tab, and just like a lot of other places in Ultra, right? If you want to add a new discussion, you click the plus icon, okay? But here on the discussion page, you will see all available discussions. So any discussion that you've created, whether it's on the discussion page or in the content area, will show up here. Okay, so you can always come here to access your discussions if you need to. Oh, the other thing too is the gear icon, right? Oops, sorry. The gear icon over here, if you open that, that's going to be your discussion settings. You may notice that another common theme in Ultra is this gear icon always opens some sort of settings panel. And on that settings panel is where you can go to create a discussion that, if you want to create a graded discussion, you can do it here by adding it. So it's up to you. You can set up the parameters, um, how many points it's worth, etc. Discussions don't always have to be worth points. I think sometimes it's nice to have sort of a low stakes sort of area where students can sort of commiserate and sort of try out ideas and stuff without feeling like they're um, being evaluated on everything, right? So I think sometimes it's a good idea to have non-graded discussions. And a lot of people like to use discussions as well for sort of general questions. So they'll create a discussion board that's just for general questions in the course. Although there's a new feature in Ultra um, called Class Conversations, um, which is I think great because what that does is by checking that box, you have created a dedicated discussion board for that assignment. So what that means, right, is that um, if a student has a question, they can click on the class conversation and ask it there. It's always related to that particular topic. So you don't have to like sift through a discussion board to figure out what assignment or assessment the student is referring to, right? Because it's automatically attached to that assessment. When you allow class conversations, oh, yes, Joan, you had a question?
Yeah, is either discussions or class conversations a place that you can get feedback on the class? Or is there someplace else for that, or wouldn't you recommend it?
By by feedback, do you mean, are you talking about data or are you talking about just a place for you to
Well,
give feedback to students?
oh no, feedback from the students to about the course. Like if we created a course and we put some questions out there like, did you learn anything new in this course? Was it
Mhm.
helpful for you? Or things like that.
Oh, yeah, you could certainly do that. Although I think I would maybe recommend creating a survey or something for something like that. If
Oh,
if if your idea is to gather data, just because if you create a survey, they all already have some of those data um, interpretation tools are built into like Qualtrics and things like that. So that
okay,
can kind of help you parse your data.
great, thanks.
But yeah, you could certainly create a discussion, for pretty much anything, right? Um, but going back to the class conversation thing, if you enable the class conversations, what happens is you will see this icon appear, right? If you see a little purple dot in the speech bubble, that means somebody has asked a question. So this is just, or there's new discussion posts on the class conversation. This is just a quick way for you to check and see if there are any questions related to that assignment. I don't know. I mean, I think it's largely a matter of personal preference, right? Because I think some instructors like having that one sort of general questions discussion board where everybody goes if they have a general question about the course and everybody kind of sees it. But on the other hand, some people might prefer this class conversation thing because it is tied to this particular assessment, so you know exactly what you're talking about. As I said, it's mostly a matter of preference. But the class conversation again is similar to the discussion board. Um, you have this rich text editor, right, which allows you to attach files, to add media, and link to other web pages. Um, but you do need to click respond in order to save any responses. because that's something that I forget on occasion. And if you'll type, I've done this where I've typed the message in and then I've just clicked out without clicking the respond, and your message just goes away. So always remember to click that button. One thing too is in your content, if somebody has asked a question, you will see this little blue speech bubble appear on the this is the course content page, right? You've got your list of stuff. You will see a little blue speech bubble icon. That will tell you also that there is a question or somebody made a comment. And it's nice because you don't actually have to click open the assignment to find out if you actually need to go there. So that's just a nice little visual for you. I'm going to go next to journals because this is a great way to set up a dialogue. I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to kind of accelerate a little bit. Journals, again, you can add them to your course at any point by using the plus icon. It opens that creation panel. Scroll down just below discussion is a journal. This is more of a, whereas a discussion is more of a sort of a general, you know, whole course discussion. A journal is more of a private dialogue between you and a student. So you can create journals like for weekly reflections, right? So require a student to post weekly to their journal. You can have it graded or ungraded. And that's just a good way for you to sort of establish that initial dialogue with students and then sort of build on that, right? Because feedback is not a one-way street, right? It's got to be a dialogue, right? To be more effective with your students, it's more of a dialogue, right? You're not just sort of issuing these commands from on high. You're actually discussing the issue with your student and talking about how best to approach it. But as I said, again, in the journal, you'll see you'll see this text editor show up a lot. You can add links and different types of media, and you can also adjust your journal to decide if it's graded or ungraded. Um, you know, either one is fine. It's kind of up to you and your objectives. And like the class conversations, if there are new journal entries, you'll see the blue bubble. All right. And by clicking, yeah, that's a nice little feature too. You can see by clicking this participation link, what that'll do is it will take you to a list of all of your students, and it will show you their total number of entries. So that's a nice little way just to see how people are engaging. And we sort of already talked about this, how you have this rich text editor. So. All right. Okay. Oh, I made it. Awesome. So we do have a few minutes left. I wanted to leave enough time for questions, so we do have a few minutes for that. I know I went through a lot of stuff really quickly, so if you'd like me to go back and demonstrate something live, I can certainly do that in my test course. I know, like I said, I went through things pretty darn fast. So if there was something you missed or you'd like some clarification, please let me know. But if not, oops, I need to stop the recording.